And we are live. This is the Rap Show podcast number 11. It is September 29th, 2022. Nathan Guerra here, coming out of US of A in Wisconsin, and out of New Zealand, Anna Russel, virtually next to me. Good to see you, Anna. And today we're going to be talking all things Zwift over the last week. That's what the podcast is all about here: racing, events, tech, and of course, fashion, the most important part of this podcast, according to certain experts. Usually we start the podcast off with what we've been up to for the last week, which usually revolves around our addiction to Zwift racing in a lot of different ways. And Anna, I'm going to let you kick off first. What have you been doing the last week?
Well, as we know from your wonderful singing last week on the show, I had my birthday. So I was away all weekend for 4 days. I did like two very, very short runs. And the rest of the time was having massages and drinking wine. So it was a great weekend. When I got back, though, I realized I kind of had to knuckle down. I got Grand Prix tomorrow. So I was like, oh, I better get some sessions in. So I hit two Zwift Academy workouts, and of course the WTRL Zwift Racing League, which we got totally smash-olered in. I gotta say, we only could field 4 riders, and with TT bikes on that course, 4 riders was a very hard race, I gotta say. But then Megan Rathwell, my teammate, we challenged ourselves to, after the event, we went and did one of the Zwift Academy workouts. So we went and did that together straight after. So it was a good 2-hour session of suffering.
I actually tuned in for a little bit of your suffering, and I noticed that you only had 4 riders, and I was like, ooh. And bringing up the idea there, which is a little bit of a bunny trail, but that with TT bikes having less riders is it's a little bit more of a disadvantage, do you think, than it used to be?
So I actually got the power files from Jen, who we were riding with, because she found it, a couple of the riders found it a real struggle. She said her power was spiking all over the show. So I sent them to my DS extraordinaire, also PC Yoda, Aaron Bleakley, and said, what's going on? Why did I find it a bit easier? And I have been doing them every week. So I think that was just practice. But he said, yeah, what he's found, which I never thought, but it's so true. The TT bikes and the position you're in has made the draft narrower. So if you are getting shunted to the sides a little bit more, you are falling out of the draft really quickly. And he said the other thing is, because the speeds are so high, when you drop to the back, if you are at all sort of not in touch, you kind of spat out really fast. So that's where I think that spiking was coming from, is people sort of dropping back really fast and then going, oh no, and panicking and coming up and then shunting the person in front of them. That person got out of the draft, and suddenly, something you could get away with 6 riders, because there's maybe a little bit more of a blob. You just can't get away with 4 riders. So that was really interesting. It is different. The draft. I don't know if you noticed that. Did you do the TTT this week?
I did do the ZRL race. We had a really good race. I think we ended up 4th overall in the world, and we won America's West. So we had a really good race. I thought, myself, and another one of the riders on our team, a little bit difference of opinion. I haven't actually voiced it in our group chat yet, but about how we could have climbed toward the end. But it ended up working out, I think, well, in the way that it happened. I wondered if we could have gained a couple more seconds, because it kind of like got pulled back to make sure that we didn't drop anybody off. I'm not sure that paid off in seconds in the long run, but we were able to really ramp it up on the other side of the climb in the in McCurry Islands there. Very interesting. Wandering Flats is a very interesting course because it's not really that flat at the end. And so you end up with that steady climb all the way up to the castle, which really can hurt a team that might already be in the hurt locker that went out a little too fast. But my experience is that things have changed with the way that you TTT. And I think in the past it was sink and sprint when it came to dropping off the front and going to the back and then jump back on. I think now, with the change in pack dynamics alongside of the reality of how fast these TT bikes are traveling, as well as where the draft exists, I find you have to feather it so carefully now. I still sink, I still drop my watts way down for just a moment, but I very quickly go to just like, I have to like find that 2 watt per kilogram difference between myself and everyone else, or even just 1.5 and everyone else, so that I actually sink through them, don't interrupt them, but quickly get right back on and slot in to that back wheel as smoothly as I can. Otherwise, I'm finding myself in a full gas, like 30-second VO2 max effort or more to get back on terms with my TT group, and you're not really resting. And if you only have 4, Anna, like you had, where I had the full a full squad, so there's a lot more time. You know what I mean? If you're taking 30-second pulls or 1-minute pulls, way more time to recover from that effort. With only 4, you've got 3 pulls, and it's like you're back on the front. So you just did a double pull. So I could see where that would be tough with these changes.
Yeah, and I think that sink and sprint thing is really crucial here. I mean, similar to your team, I have a difference of opinion with someone of my team on the best formation for 4 riders. I think when there's 4 riders, in my opinion, you've got to be single file. Um, because there's no, if you're bunching behind the second rider, there's only 2 of you and you'll just create no draft and you won't be recovering. So I thought the best was single file, but I think coupled with, if you're not experienced with TTTing on these new bikes and you haven't done it in a while, that's very hard. I think as well visually, and this is what Aaron was saying as well, is he goes camera angle 3 for this because he found visually he was able to stay in the draft a lot better. And he's been using Zwift Source, which I know we're going to talk about a bit in the show, of making sure he was actually in the draft for that time. So I think, yeah, it's also with the sink and sprint, like what you're saying, if you sink too much and you sprint, your TT bike accelerates quickly and is up to speed and goes fast that you just end up blowing through your pack again, and then you sink again and blow through. So I think it's the yo-yo effect with the TT bikes is significant. So yeah, the feathering, absolutely agree. That is a crucial part. I've done the same. I notice my power kind of gradually drops until I'm on the last wheel, and then I just pick it up slightly. There's no, dramatic drop in pace.
The relating to what I've been up to for the last week, also is a lot of it was focused on the TTT, as well as looking at a lot of drafting dynamics. We are going to be talking about sauce, so it's a good transition after this comment about what I've been up to. But internet connection has been coming up in my team as well with the ZRL, and the reality of Wi-Fi, or whether or not people are on certain devices that might not be getting the internet as quickly or as best as it possibly can from the garage or the basement. We've been noticing in the TTT that people are their avatars are catching up or figuring out where they are in ways that they didn't realize until they saw the live stream, or they saw in the live stream of somebody having the Zwift Sauce draft up and going, whoa, I've been way off. And now they're going to try and get hardwired, which is really cool to see for me, because I've been saying for a really long time, Zwift Esports is a lot like other esports, and we're going to get to a point where every single FPS player in the world would laugh at somebody, first-person shooter person in the world, playing COD, playing Apex Legends, whatever it would be. They would laugh at the idea of being on Wi-Fi. They would be like, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? Like, how are you even playing the game? And I feel that there's a lot of riders out there that I'm riding amongst that I almost was like, I was with the pace partner today, and I was like, I think I can spot Apple TV now. I think I can spot people who are on certain devices for what their ability is within a pack dynamic, which is good, which it really makes things interesting about upgrading your setups now at this point.
I agree. And from the show that we did with Aaron Bleakley on PC setups, teammate Jen and also a friend of mine, straight after the show, got in touch with Aaron, and he's helped build them a PC. And so now they're on hardwired PCs for their like gaming and their racing. And yeah, they've noticed a difference. And I agree. There's a team time trial group that I go with on a Thursday night, and I can see one rider, and I need to ask him. I absolutely think there's a different computer setup he's going on. Because when I'm on, I do a lot of camera angle 6 and also the orbit cam when I'm in that group, just because I'm not, redlining. So I can kind of see the dynamics from a bird's eye view. And I just see like this kind of shunting forward and a bit just, it's not smooth. I'm like, that is not a rider thing. That is a network or a computer thing. So yeah, people are getting way more attuned to it. I think when we look at races where it comes down to 100th of a second, this stuff matters massively. And I mean, now maybe do we transition to the source thing? Because that's the fact that people can now see their draft is having a huge impact on the way people are realizing they've been racing.
Yeah, I think so. Then transitioning then to the discussion about Sauce for Zwift, which was made, for those that are wondering what we're talking about, there's a developer out there that made Sauce for Strava and then went ahead and made an add-on now, a third-party software that it connects to Zwift, that's able to get data for you to see what your avatar is doing and how it's interacting with other avatars, and display that data for you on your computer, in order to see exactly what the draft might be, what your average watts per kilogram might be. And you have a lot of different options, all kinds of different options within it. But one thing that's come up then because of this is the reality of how much time you can gain in a team time trial. Versus, we looked at the Next Esports and Velocio. They took, I think, first and second place overall in the world in ZRL this past Tuesday. We took fourth, and we were only a few seconds off of one of those times. And the difference in watts per kilogram between our team and their team was like a half a watt per kilogram or something. Like, we were in the 4s and they were in the 5s. I mean, that is massive amounts of difference in power. And the only difference that I can think of is our technique. That we're just really making sure that we're running this technique for speed being king, not wasting energy, rolling through when we need to, and maximizing our ability to draft, and then using our extra energy to come through. So that means that when I'm practicing, I go out, and another example of this alongside of the sauce discussion is I'll go out and I'll practice a lot of times with Constance right now, which is the 4.0 bot. I'll find it on a flat course. I'll say, okay, it's using TikTok or Volcano Flat or whatever it might be. Make sure it's a flat course. And my goal will be to have the lowest watts per kilogram I can possibly have for the duration of my ride all the way through. And so as I'm learning to do that, I'm then learning as well to TTT really well, to make sure that I can guess where people are going to be and where avatars are going to go and how to slot in the best I can. So I'm reserving as much energy as I can. So when I do hit the front and the rest of my team knows how to reserve that energy, I can completely use every bit that I have to bring to the table during that time and then slot back in. And because they know how to draft, they're getting the full advantage of everything I'm throwing down. So many times in a team time trial, where have you felt like you've been in a situation where everyone's just wasting energy? Like, everybody's just wasting everything. The guy in the front, the guy in the back, the person who's in the middle, like, nobody is saving anything right now. Could we get this together?
And I think that it also is like self-perpetuating. So people start getting panicky and they're redlining, and suddenly it's their turn again and they're like, I can't do it. I'm going to do 10 seconds. And then they're just shot out the back. And I think as soon as people get that panicky feeling that they can't do it, then everything gets worse. So the ability to even stay in the draft then is almost impossible, because they're just barely surviving on their trainer at home. So it was, I think as well, a lot of it, and that's such a good point, Nathan, is I know on my team, we knew we had one team time trial this season in ZRL. So there wasn't a whole lot of, I'm the only one who's gone out and practiced. And that's only because I like trialing the team time trial format. I haven't really had the opportunity to do it much before. I think as well, if you want to get good at something on Zwift, you've got to go out and do, like you said, either the pace partner rides, or over our winter. So the off season on Zwift for me is I would pick a race each week where, like you, I wanted to have the lowest watts per kg at the end. And I would try a whole bunch of stuff like, okay, if I drop off this pack by 1 second, can I get back on? If I drop off by 2 seconds, can I get back on? If I drop off by 6 seconds, can I get back on? And accept that maybe I can't get back on and that race is done, but I could practice like when to panic and when not to panic. So when it comes to races I care about, I go, I'm 4 seconds off. I know I can get back on. So this is all good.
Speaking that, we go down this rabbit hole forever about pack dynamics and how I work through a pack at different times depending on how it's behaving. Maybe I just need to make a video about this because there's so many different ways to interact, like you're saying, to practice with this. But Sauce is in the wild now. Let maybe move on to that topic completely. TTT and a lot of different things are being affected by that. But it seems to suddenly have blown up, like it's all over the place, and it's really cool to see, I think, the way that this new data and the way that it is being presented is kind of eye-opening, I think, a lot. There's the reality of network connections and whether or not your network connection is, I think a lot of people just assume a lot about what's going on. Like it's just doing what it ought to do, right? You start the car, you press the pedal, and I don't know how it works. It just goes, right? And so, but now, if you look at your riders nearby list in Sauce, you're noticing that there's a second Zwift. So it uses a second Zwift login in order to get the data, right? So there's a second Zwift watching locally on your, or wherever it's watching on, and it's being shown to you. And sometimes it'll show that someone's ahead of me that I don't see actually ahead of me. And it'll show that they're behind me and they're not actually behind me. And that says that someone's network connection's off, right? And so things are starting to be discovered here that might not have been discovered in the past in a lot of different ways, not just the draft dynamic, but also these network issues that people might have, or, whatever. I mean, there's a ton of different data that you can pull from it that might reveal a lot of things that you might not have noticed before in the game.
Yeah, and I guess now that we're talking about Zwift Source, I mean, I noticed this on your stream probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. When you brought it up on the podcast, I was like, what is that? What is it? And so you told me, and then I've seen there's been quite a few posts around the community on Zwift Source. I know that Matt Brandt on the Saris men's team, he's created a beautiful user interface with Zwift Source, super clean. It looks amazing. I have not got it yet. I've got to go.
Or Brandt? I thought it was Gardner.
Sorry, Brandt. Gardner.
Yeah, okay.
Gardner. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I'm super keen to get into it. I just need a good amount of time to kind of, me, bit of a control freak. I just want it all looking beautiful straight away. But I have had a few. So I have a question for you. First off, is that there's a drafting kind of indicator, right? And someone messaged me yesterday, Kevin O'Pelly from NZ Bro, who asked if the draft is showing 130%. He was confused because he would have thought 100% is you are 100% in the draft. So what is 130%? Like what's the scale here for the draft?
Me and Eric Schlange and I had a conversation about this yesterday, actually. And he had already talked to Justin, the developer, about this. And that's just the number that Zwift gives. Like no one knows what it means. Literally, Zwift just gives that number and no one knows what the number means. So next time, if maybe I have a conversation with John Mayfield, or I'll ask the devs, hey, what exactly does this number mean? How is it calculated? That would be a really great conversation to have, because it does go up exponentially, it seems like, on downhills, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense for you're getting, so maybe it's how much less you have to work to be at the same speed or something, right? Because your draft shouldn't increase. You're not in more draft just because you're going downhill, but you're having to work less a lot of times when you're in the draft when you're going downhill, right? So that would make sense, because I've seen it up to 350% or something on downhills.
Speed related? Downhills, you're going a lot faster. Maybe there's a speed element in there. I don't know. But anyway, that was a question. Well, that's good to know that you don't have the answer to that one, that it's just
there's
a
also
number. But I guess
opinions. There's opinions out there, though, too. Right, Anna? We got to cover the opinions, right? So,
yes.
We've seen some posts saying this is cheating. What's going on? You shouldn't be able to do this. And then you've got the in real life kind of I don't know, beat your chest. Just, I should be riding a Peugeot from 1979 or what. I don't even know if Peugeots were made then, and steel is real and ride a single speed only kind of feel guys. And they come in and they're like, just ride your bike and, and whatever. And I don't even know why they're on Zwift, but so sorry, but so my take, go ahead. You go first, because I obviously having a strong opinion in this category. I want to know what your opinion is, because mine's going to be pretty intense.
Okay, I don't want to trigger anything in you, Nathan, but I mean, because I haven't got a whole lot of experience with it, that's why I'm kind of looking at the forums, looking at what people are saying. And I did notice that we were referenced, because we'd brought it up a few weeks ago. So we were referenced in this post. And I guess, so they're sort of saying, is it cheating? If you look at the short question to the long post. And so say I'm racing Grand Prix tomorrow. The reason I didn't set up Source before Grand Prix is I was like, I actually don't want to use it for that, because I feel as though it could be a little bit of uneven footing. So not cheating, but I was like, well, would I feel like it was a hollow victory if I was the only one in there who had access to what this looked like? And I thought potentially, so I wouldn't use it in Grand Prix racing. Not because I think it's cheating, but yeah, I just personally, I'd feel a little bit hollow if I won and it was because I was sitting in the draft so well. But would I use it every other time on Zwift? Absolutely. Like, I can't wait to set up what it looks like, having new stats in there, new data coming through, just sort of getting a better insight into the whole game. That's what you and I guess, are all about, right? We're the guinea pigs. We want to try it and see how you get the most, that extra, 0.001%, those marginal gains. So I don't think it's cheating, but in certain races, I would not be using it. And actually, the reason Grand Prix more so is because there's a lot of riders in Grand Prix who come from, say, in real life pro teams, or they're, like sitting at level 15. And I definitely know they would have no idea about something like Zwift Source.
Yeah, I think for me, on that, I can understand that, mainly because it's so new. Back in the day, OG gamer here, but with this has come up in games over and over and over again, specifically in massive multiplayer onlines that are RPG like, or have a data stream that's in the background that have some sort of numbers that need to be known in order to know what you're up to, in order to know what you need to do at any time or moment. And because there were so many add-ons made for games like this, there was an entire business, an entire third-party app for the third-party apps, and it was called Curse. There was other ones too, but Curse was and it still exists, I believe. And you went and got all your add-ons through the Curse app, and it would download all the essential add-ons that you needed in order to play the game at the highest level. And if you didn't have these add-ons, you was like, what's wrong with you? Are you even a WoW player? Like, what are you doing? Like, people would literally laugh at you. Like I am not kidding. You would get into a raiding situation and they'd be like, you don't use your whatever. I can't remember what all of them were called. It was like 10 years ago or whatever, but they'd be like, well, why aren't you using your, and like, if you'd feel like that person who didn't know what a word was that you should have known 5 years ago in high school, right? Like, oh, I don't know. I shouldn't even, and everyone would laugh. Oh, you don't know. What are you even doing here? Should we kick him out of the guild? Like literally, that's what it was like. So, and I think it'll get to that point, and that's kind of how it was referenced when I've heard it being talked about amongst, even some people at Zwift. Like, hey, is this cool? Is it just an add-on? And the word add-on was actually used. So I think that it'll get to that point. I think it's just part of the data that we've been asking for. I would really, really like to know. And one of my feedbacks to Zwift over and over and over again is I need more information. I need more information to know how I'm interacting with the game. And I've brought this up a lot of times about, like, when Overwatch makes any change or Apex makes any change to one gun, I need to know what the bullet damage is going to be to know whether or not I'm going to use that gun. And I need to know what damage it's doing to my enemy when I hit them, so I need to know how I can continue to interact with the game. And it gives us that feedback naturally, so you know how to fight. Well, this is just knowing how to fight. Like this is just knowing how to interact with what's happening in front of me. And because we don't have the feedback of wind, we don't have the feedback like you would in real life of some things that are just natural to the data that the natural world is giving to us. I think this is totally on par with what should be. I absolutely love it. So that's my opinion. Not even close to cheating. Way more of a just getting what we need to interact with the game.
Yeah, and I think another part that I really like, and it was when I saw that screen that Matt Gardner had done, is there's always been a sort of desire from the community. I mean, I'm not going to lie, that front screen, um, what's it called? Graphical user interface, GUI, or the HUD that we see. Um, it's a bit clunky, it's a little clunky looking. And if you've got the ability now that you can take that all that stuff off and just have the clean screen to sort of add your own overlays, I would have thought for Zwift that would be amazing. Like you said, if this was an add-on that they could, I hope that instead of, going down the track and shutting it down, which I don't think they'll do, but if they could integrate it and say, okay, here's like all the things you can have on your display, and now you just click and there they are. And that would look awesome because I prefer a very clean display. And I often race with just the nothing on there, but I kind of need some stuff on there. But it's kind of like you either have everything or you have nothing. And I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
would just like one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be great for me. So I'm going to be trialing that with my stream overlays for Twitch and everything and see how that looks. But that's probably to me over and above all of the gadgetry and the data coming through and all of that is just a
The
display that
look,
I've got control
just the
over.
look.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
look.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
look.
The ability to change. And if you didn't know, press H, and your HUD will go away. Your heads up display will go totally clean, and you can ride no info mode. And then I've seen people like you're saying putting whatever they want from sauce over the top, which is pretty cool. So, well, that's the update on what's happening with Zwift Sauce. Pretty awesome. Quick one, just a real quick bullet point. You and I were chatting a little bit, and a couple of things since ZRL had kicked off went down, and it happens every ZRL season. People invite new people to the platform. There's a trainer that is a little bit off, and then there needs to be some sort of fixing of results and informing of individuals that, hey, this seems a little bit off. No ill intent by these individuals. And one thing that we have said from, I think, 2016, 2017 on, there was a lot of early on in Zwift racing, way back, all the way back to 2015, from the get-go, there was naming and shaming going on. And I, from the moment Zwift Community Live launched, made it a principle that we would not name and shame, and that we would assume the best about individuals up front. And I just want to just say, as a person in the Zwift community, that that's the stance and that's what we should be doing. And I just know that some individuals have gotten hurt in their first introduction to this community, and that's really sad.
Yep, I agree. I think that's a nice statement, Nathan. And I know when you're racing and it's the heat of the moment and you're really trying hard and your heart rate's up in 170, 180, and you see someone flying off the front, I know the first instinct is to sort of go, oh, their trainer's doing this or they're cheating. But I think if we can all just, before you post anything up afterwards, just take a breath, and we'll go with the underlying reasoning that everyone is here to have a good race. And sometimes people get on and their trainers just are reading high that day, or something's happened and it can get rectified. Often that person, this has happened to me. I was saying to you behind the scenes as well, I was trialing a new smart bike for some work I do for another company. And I went and did one of the ZRL races on it. And I was like, this will be my dual record. I'll see how it goes. And I won the race. And in the race, I was like, this is reading high. My power numbers are so high. Like, but what do I do? Like, I still want to finish. And then I just honestly had weeks of guilt about it. And then the dual recording was terrible. It was reading high. I never used it again, but I have always felt terrible about that. And I, was like, oh man, I need to take that result off. If someone had actually commented publicly about it, I would feel like I wouldn't want to race again, because you feel terrible yourself. You know when something's not quite right. And I think, yeah, harassing people in the community about it is just not the way to go. And people have team managers on their team. I'd say the first instance, if you're really annoyed about it, is send a private message to the team manager and, have a nice conversation about it, but not, out publicly. I think we can not do that.
Yeah, letting due process take its place. Go to the authorities first, and we just don't need to be keyboard warriors. I agree with that. Just wanted to touch on that real quick. I had a couple of instances I got privy to, and just wanted to make sure that as a community, at least what we're up to here with ZCL and with ZRL, etc., and any way that we can to just make sure we're setting that tone to be in a welcoming place. And of course, if there are cheats, they'll get rooted out eventually. And, and I'm all about that. I'm all about, but making sure that we're not hurting anybody up front and assuming the best. Well, let's go ahead, assuming the best. We don't have to do that because this guy just is the best. James Barnes he's rolling his eyes at me like, come on, Nathan. But it's really great to have him on. Elite Rider for Next, presented by Ensure. James Barnes, welcome to the wrap. It's great to see you. And maybe just a quick little introduction for those who don't know who James Barnes is, but a little bit of maybe just Zwift history and maybe a little bit in real life riding too, as far as the racer goes.
Okay, introduction. Yep, James Barnes, originally born in South Africa, currently living in Auckland, New Zealand. Been in theory riding a bike properly since the age of 10. Did my first big race at the age of 10, a 95-kilometer race in 4 hours 45, and ever since then I've been hooked. Raced at elite level in South Africa for 3 years before moving to New Zealand, and then picked up Zwift before that in the beta phase. Been racing that ever since. Pushed really hard when that Movistar E-Challenge came. Got picked up by the next Esports team, and then, as people say, made waves in my first Premier Division season by winning the first race. And I think it was 4 wins for the whole time, for all of them since, and a few other podiums as well.
It's pretty. Yeah, I mean, that first Premier Division show up obviously made waves, James. It's really awesome to have you on here to talk a little bit about the progression of esports and how things have been going for you and how you see it. But Anna, well, it was your idea to bring James onto the program, and you guys are both from New Zealand, which is pretty right now you're both out of New Zealand. I actually was wondering if you guys knew each other at all, or like if there's any like common ground at all because of that.
I have not met James in real life, unless I have. I haven't, right? No. So I came across I came across James's avatar when I started running the Triathlon New Zealand e-racing league, which we've done for 3 years now. And I was like, whoa, this guy's like pretty legit. This is awesome. Like, he's making this racing super fun. And then when I saw him go in Prem League, I was sort of like, oh, cool. I wonder how he's going to go with the big guns. I was like, whoa, yeah, like winning. This is phenomenal. And yeah, I just love it. I know he's got a South African accent, but totally claim him as a New Zealander. And I guess I just wanted to, I mean, I'm racing the Grand Prix tomorrow, but we've got Nathan here who commentated it. But I really wanted to know what it was like from a racer's point of view. Like, I know, James, we've been kind of talking a little bit before the show about, some learnings you had that I never would have thought of. So I guess, can you give just a summary, like how was it to race this new format from a racer's point of view, and the fact that it was you had to kind of sit there on your bike for a while and the issues that sort of raised. I'm keen to hear all about it.
Yeah, I think this new format's really cool. It's the natural evolution of everything, like what you guys were saying earlier, the natural progression with updates and the changes to, to the sport and to updating stuff, which I think is really cool. You know, and something for bringing in people to keep them interested and bringing in the audience and keeping it like, as we've seen the platform, we've seen the racing evolve, riders getting better, teams getting better, tactics evolving, like we've seen with a simple example is like seeing the team time trials moving from standard bikes now to time trial bikes. And what a lot of people have actually forgotten and neglected to see how the draft is different for those bikes between that bike and a TT bike. We've definitely seen and we've definitely noted the drafting is different and the way that the avatars interact is different. So it's the same way here with the racing. And you guys even spoke about it, the natural progression between for hardware as well. It's like getting a direct connect connection for me has definitely made a big difference in terms of the way that I'm able to respond, my avatar is able to respond. I think, obviously I'm lucky enough, I've got a pretty strong computer here, so I don't have issues in terms of hardware and making that in terms of the lag. My only issue could be potentially network, but I've eliminated everything possible for that in terms of my environment now, especially with the direct connect, so you don't have power issues or power spikes. The new format, please stop me if I'm going down random rabbit holes, because I'm very good at that and finding random things to talk about, and I can yarn about them forever. So the new format for me is great. I think it was really cool because, again, it as much as it's also still team, it brings out the individuals a bit more as well, so lets them shine and lets them different skill sets as well required as well. So it's not necessarily sitting in a bunch and waiting, having really good racecraft. It's also a little bit more about having a really strong VO2, having a really strong as a rider. And then, to be honest, I was as nervous as anything. It felt like a first time I was racing. I had terrible night's sleep the night before. I was nervous as heck. I didn't know what was going on. I'm coming out of a big 6-week break and trying to rebuild. So I knew my fitness wasn't where it was expected to be. I felt like an absolute rambling mess, but it was awesome for me as well, sitting there after my warm up with your standard 30 minutes in a pen, cheering on my teammates while waiting for my turn to race. And I think that was my little bit of a mistake. I'll just let my legs kind of go to sleep in that 30 minutes, because 13 minutes, you prepare, you do your weigh-ins. I was up like an hour and a half before with weigh-ins, getting that all ready, doing my warm-up, making sure my nutrition was ready, and then sitting 30 minutes in the pen, and then the race was over in 13 minutes. You blinked and it, 360 watt average, 350 watt average and 460 watt normalized power for 13 minutes is suddenly poof, it's over. You miss the race before it's even started. It was unreal. Yeah,
Quick
I haven't gone
question,
that deep in. Yeah, go
Barney, quick question on that. I noticed, I saw during your stream, you were streaming it live on Twitch, and I was watching a little bit while I was commentating, but then I went back and watched it because I wanted to see your perspective. I looked for a lot of the riders who had streamed it because I wanted to know what it was like for them to experience it. I remember it. I think you had an off day. From what I've heard, I heard from a few of your team members and DS or team manager that might have just been a little bit of an off day as well. But I remember you being like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Like, you really take this so. Like, I want to talk about your heart for your team, because I watched you also cheer on each one of your team members as they were out there and being like, "Good on you," and whatever. Come on, come on, Duffy. I heard you saying that, and there was this kind of like camaraderie, it seemed like, within your Discord that was happening throughout their races to encourage each other on. But then also your heart to be like so apologetic and taking on so much of that weight of like not being able to perform for what you felt like you should have for your team that day.
Yeah, and that's, again, you hit the nail on the head there. It's the camaraderie within the team, and that's one thing for me that's been amazing about the next guys, is that the camaraderie has been unbelievable throughout since I've joined them, and that for me shone heads and shoulders above anything else that they've offered is the wrong word, but anything else as a team is. And and that's it. Everybody cheers everybody on, and everybody takes it on, and the guys did such an awesome job. They got me. We got into the final race with I think it was like a 2 or 3 points lead. So yeah, and here I am, the anchor man. Here I am to do the job and finish the job for the guys. And I think by the third lap, the variation in the pace, my legs were just not having any of it. They were on there. I think they were on the verge of cramping, or just on the verge of just.
I
And
remember
as you said, like,
I remember you yelling at your legs. I remember you actually yelling at your legs. It's so,
yeah.
I want one other thing I want to know. Maybe Anna can piggyback on this. Is your training, like, has it changed up specific? I mean, it's a 13-minute race, right? Like, a little bit different than, like, what's the difference now between what you had to do before to what you have to think about now? Has it changed at all, or not really?
So yeah, at the moment, I'm still in theory what Alex and I we're calling like a rebuilding block. So we're not really like, the fitness is coming back. We're within 10% of where I was, and with all these things, you can't rush them. You can't suddenly now change something while you're trying to rebuild a base to now suddenly do a huge bunch of really sharpening work. That sharpening work, I've seen it's coming naturally. It's just the resistance to fatigue. That's the only thing that's missing, and that's the only thing that I've definitely felt, is the resistance to those repetitive high intensity efforts, and then the ability to recover off the back of them. I'm sure you, Nathan, can definitely, I've seen you racing, and you will know recently, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, is that his ability to go hard for a minute and then recover really quickly in say 30 seconds to be able to go hard again for another minute. Your typical 40-20s is a really good example of a workout that encompasses that kind of aerobic resistance, that aerobic capacity, and that aerobic just ability just to go hard and just keep going. And I wish the Jens Voigt saying "shut up legs" would work, but we have to sadly do as much work as we can, and we have to keep pushing. And as you said, some days we have off days, so and coming back to it is just, I felt terrible because I just wasn't able to do the job for the team. So it just took me the weekend, and luckily we had a long weekend there, just a lot of self-reflection, a lot of my partners with Monique, she was amazing in terms of reassuring me and just, telling me that, you're allowed to have one bad day. It's one bad day.
Just
It's a
one.
long
Just
season ahead
one.
of us.
Just kidding.
So exactly, now the pressure's on. I've had the one bad day. So, but it's, you said, then coming back to the training specifically for it, yeah, I'm sure you could do it, but 13 minutes is not a lot. 13 minutes is really hard to train for. 13 minutes, there's more to it than just training. There's the preparation around the race and what happens in the race. You saw that race. It basically, the easiest way for me to explain to what that race was a points race on the track. I've raced many of those on the track. I absolutely struggle with them as well, because they're always so hard to read, because either they can be a race where it flows and can be quite high tempo, or it could be a race like what happened there. It can literally, it's a track standoff. Everybody waits for the last moment, then it's a massive sprint, and then it's suddenly a big track standoff, or somebody tries to pop off. And for people who haven't seen the format, that's the easiest way for me to explain what that format of that race was literally was a points race on the track, because of the short duration and the short distances and high intensity.
The question I have for you is, you've mentioned it a few times that you're in a rebuild phase, a base phase, and you're coming in. Are you purely focusing on esport coming into the New Zealand summer? So is this what you're building for, like this Grand Prix and then the esport world?
Yeah, I have basically moved fully since moving to New Zealand into an esports. My main focus is esports. It's I was lucky enough, I think it was 21, beginning of last year. Yeah, I was lucky enough that I was invited and got a slot on an open team for New Zealand Cycle Classic, and I had the opportunity to ride there. I kind of wish I maybe we could go again and try again if I was on a lot better fitness, but the racing, the racing calendar here is very short, and with, looking at it, you look at it, races like Twitter Ranges, sadly, I raced that once and I loved it. It was such a great route, and it fell away. So the racing scene in New Zealand is a lot smaller than what it is, and picking up Zwift races is a lot easier. Like you said, you can pick one every week and it's there every week, or you can find one that works your time and it's every week. A local, the local club teams, I really feel sorry for them, because it makes it quite hard racing, and it really makes it hard to be attractive when you have to drive 45 minutes to do an hour and a half race, to drive 45 minutes back, to pay $40, say $30 to $40 to do a race with 3-4 other guys. I could spend that morning with my local bunch doing a massive chain gang for an hour and a half and spend $5 on a coffee at the end, and then ride home, and I've still got the rest of the afternoon, and I've had a harder ride or a harder workout. So as you're coming back to your point of moving towards indoors. Yeah, my main focus, I think, has moved indoors, especially now with the World Championships movement. And it's a shame. I really enjoyed the outdoor racing, but I still am riding outdoors. And if an opportunity or an event does come along and does present itself, it does. Like with the I just forgot the series. The Dynamo series that's now fallen away. That I raced Cat 2 there with the guys there, and that was great.
Okay. Yeah, I always have an innate sense of guilt when I'm sitting there doing all my Zwift riding, and I look out the window now coming into summer and it's beautiful, and I'm like, man, I should be outside. But it's nice to hear you as well are focusing purely on esport, and I'd say I focus on esport for the same reasons. Just the travel time and the scene in New Zealand is a little bit smaller. I think I've looked ahead at what you've got coming next week with this Team Omnium in the Grand Prix. And I know you take this very seriously, so I'm assuming you've sort of looked at it in depth and you're kind of thinking team strategies and how you're going to prepare for that. I know you're not going to give away too much, but what do you think, can you explain that format a little bit? And then what are you going to have to bring to the table this time, which is totally different to the race you had last week?
I'm going to lie here. I'm going to absolutely state the truth. I have not looked at it. I have not done it. I have not, because again, what the thing is, we haven't picked a team. We haven't said this is the team. So you can't really finalize strategies. You can't really finalize. So it's but I'm definitely going to say it suits us from these events moving forward. It suits us better as a team, as a whole, because we've got 10 riders on the roster this year that are, well, for this season, that are just in each way, every one of them is an animal. Everybody has their strength, and you can't. So I feel sorry for, I think, whoever's doing the selections behind the scenes. I just absolutely feel terrible for the guys, because they probably have the hardest job. And they, and again, like, I'm sure they want to give every guy a chance and every guy an opportunity to shine. John Bruno in his first Premier League race absolutely smashed it, and did an amazing ride. And the other guys just rode unbelievably well and had really strong rides as well. So again, looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it because it suits me a little bit better, and it's a little bit more. I enjoy the racecraft. I enjoy racecraft. I enjoy, being able to, Nathan, as you said, practicing in Apex, making sure you're knowing the movements and knowing it, and being able to take advantage of things, and being able to watch the racing, control the racing, but not have to be out in front. You kind of be a little bit more sneaky. You can kind of be a little bit more, watching from the shadows and getting it. And I think with Zwift coming in, I think it's great, because again, it's another tool for some people to learn about racing and learning about how the dynamics of Zwift work. So I don't think it's necessarily giving an unfair advantage, because you could look at it like this, that the data is already out there, so you could use it. But it will definitely make racing interesting if they allow it, and if it's allowed in Grand Prix racing and the Premier level. I'm not sure, because we haven't seen any comms or any manager chat or anything about it. So Anna, please tell me if it is, because that'd be great in theory if there's clarification around it. But then you look at it like this.
Anna's in charge now. Anna's now in charge of whether or not it's going to be used.
Yeah. I've just passed the buck on. But then as well, you look at it like this: the HUDless Zwift races are impossible now with Zwift Source. That's the thing of the past now. You can't have a HUDless race, because Zwift Source overlays on top of it, so you can't. That you look at it from that aspect.
Quickly for next week, you didn't mention, just so everybody knows, we're asking the question, what are you thinking? Next week is going to be Team Elimination Omnium. So very interesting. 3 races, total riders starting on the first race can be 60 of them. So 12 teams with 5 riders on each. The second race is going to be a total of 30 riders after the first elimination. There's going to be some golden tickets that you can get through by winning certain sections, but it's also a points race. I mean, the last one, it's going to be a total of 10 riders. So 4-lap race elimination, and you end up with 3 remaining riders in the end. And so then who's going to be your podium, but then they have to fight it out for the win. I'm super excited about this.
Yep. So because it also echoes the Worlds format pretty hard as well. So it's going to be interesting to see that as well. So it's pretty cool. Like that. It's exciting. And again, that's what I think this whole new season and this whole new format brings, is this whole new dynamic, and it brings a whole new, something for us to figure out and learn, because it's not just a standard points race. It's not just a standard scratch race. It's different. So, I think a lot of the teams and a lot of the riders and a lot of the guys will all be figuring it out as we're going, because it is so new. It is so, what works for this race might not work for that now, or and it's going to be exciting.
So, James, where can people find you? I mean, you're streaming like all the time on Twitch. It seems like almost every day, and making showing off your build up and your training. I mean, it makes me think do you have a little bit of that, I'm exposing everything I'm up to and my competition's watching me? Because some pros in certain pros amongst the Strava crowd, they hide all their stuff, right? And I've always been of the opinion, whatever, if they can keep up with me, they can. Everybody put your best out there.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of there was a joke around the whole thing, the Zwift power. The longer your Zwift power bio, the more you're trying to hide. The joke of stuff like that, people joking like that. So it's I'm the complete opposite. I don't care. You come look for it, find it. If you find something tell me that you think is dodgy and suspicious, because I just have a laugh, because I'm the furthest thing from it. I'm probably the most transparent person on there. I think I've got 170 now, 160 dual recordings of all my racing on Zwift. As you said, I have all my I do all my training.
Some people want to hide what they're able to do and what their training is, though, too. That's mainly what I meant, not from a dodgy thing.
Nah, no, I sorry. Okay, so for the dodgy aspect, okay, sorry, leave that alone. I went down a random rabbit hole there, but the training and thing, look at it this way. If I can inspire one more person to ride a bike, I'll feel like I'm happy. I've achieved what I've done for that day. If I can share one thing with one person that they didn't know about riding, or they had a question about, so that they learned something that day about riding that then improved their riding, I've done my job for the day. If I can do one thing of growing, adding one more person to the community that's enjoying themselves, and now find somebody else to ride with or somebody else to share their experiences with, I've done my job for the day. It's about, for me, spending the time with other people and like-minded people and new people to share my knowledge of riding for 20 years, when I worked in the cycling industry for 6 years. Oh, there goes the bins. I forgot about the bins. Oops. And there, I just heard the garbage machine going past. Bugger. And it is, it's that for me, it's building a community of inclusivity and including, and being a guy at the top. And people, it's weird. People are scared to ask me questions. And I'm no, come, I'm a normal dude. I promise you. I was the same. The easiest way to explain it to them, I was you when I started. I also had, there is no such thing as a dumb question, because I had probably asked the same question, and I will ask the same question probably in the future as well. And I might, maybe something I don't even know. So it's that whole thing for me, is that that's why I try and put everything on there so people can see it, because maybe somebody will have a question. Maybe will somebody see something and be like, oh, why are you doing this? Or what did you do this? And why did you choose that? And then I'll happily answer and give them as much information as possible, probably worded in very interesting ways, and going down rants and hearing garbage trucks, and then randomly changing the story, and then we'll get on another topic and talking about something else completely like irrelevant. But then it's building that community. It's and sharing the knowledge. Because what's the point of hoarding it and keeping it to yourself if you can't share it with somebody? Because all you're doing is just being, you're not, and then when you go and stop it, it's not going with anybody else. It's just sitting with you, but you're not able to grow. In theory, if you're saying you're passionate about a sport and you're not willing to put the time in and put the effort in to share it and make it a better place, I don't. For me, it's I don't understand that.
100%. Well, maybe you can share something real quick. Last question. What drinks do you drink during the race? Burn baby over on Twitch wants to know, what's your go-to?
So yeah, again, it's like these things with nutrition. It's finding the brands and finding the products that work for you. I found for me personally that SIS products work really well for me. They sit well in my stomach. I can put them down pretty quickly and have no issues. They taste really good.
So mix or gel? Which
both.
one do you go? You do both. You do both. See, we've had this conversation. Yeah, well, we've had this conversation on here about which one is best, and I'm a total water in the bottles and take the gel kind of a guy. So I was just and Anna,
okay. So then I'll break it down like this. Then I'll break it down like this. So I had so I'll have a caffeine gel before my warm up. I'll have a caffeine gel after my warm up. So I am buzzing. I am like going full yeet. And then I'll have 10 minutes before the start, I'll have a non-caffeine gel. So it's like mainly more electrolytes, more carbs. So I am humming. And then you look at it like this, when the races were longer, then it'll be another caffeine gel halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, so that I'm sitting that day with about 150 milligrams of caffeine in myself for a race.
For me, you're just getting started. You're just getting started. Yeah. See, I live on like an entire pot in the morning, I think. So
yeah, see, that's the one thing I try not to.
You had 100 milligrams of caffeine per child. So I do like 500 a day, I think, or something along right.
Good man.
That's about what.
There we go. All I'll say is make sure you have a appointment at your dentist this year, because I learned the hard way, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I make sure I'm also chasing it with a lot of water as well. So again,
a lot of water.
Just rinsing out the mouth.
Is a big deal.
Yeah. On the other side, the flip side, I'll race and I'll have these big liter bottles as well. I'll have 2 of those with me as well, and I'll have a small mix bottle. So I'll actually be basically having, for every 1 sip of mix, I'll be having 2-3 sips of water as well.
So to answer the question,
and then again, the biggest thing people forget is hydration before. Sorry.
Bring the entire kitchen. That's he brings the whole kitchen and a ton of caffeine, it sounds like. But all right, James, it's really great having you on the program. Next Esports is who you're riding for. You can catch James Barnes over on his Twitch channel. What is it? Twitch.tv/
_Barney NZ.
Barney and
Barney _NZ. Sorry, Barney _NZ.
NZ.
I'll find it now and I'll dump it in your chat if you want.
There you go. Make it happen. And you can obviously see him racing in the Grand Prix next week. You can go back and watch his racing as well on his Twitch channel or over on Zwift channel during the Grand Prix. James, thanks a lot for jumping in with us. And we will see you in the Grand Prix next week as well as over on your Twitch channel. Buddy, I really appreciate you having some time with us.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me. Always happy to spend the time and talk with guys and spend, if you had, it's something I happily, I just enjoy doing, because it's talking about something that, we're all passionate about and something we all find interesting, and, going down the rabbit holes of hardware and networks and finding something interesting that people talk about. It's really cool. So sorry. So again, I'm very good at going down rabbit holes and yarning about random stuff forever.
That's what makes you the best streamer. That's what makes him the best streamer out there. All right. Cheers, Barnes. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Well, James, absolutely awesome to have. What a nice guy, man.
So nice.
Seriously. And obviously extremely passionate about this whole space and about cycling and obviously esports. Fully committed, Anna, to just esports now.
I was quite interested by that when it kind of triggered me when I heard him saying like I've gone through a base phase. I was like, if you've gone through your base phase, you're peaking for these things. And I can see, I mean, he would have got a good I mean, I've been watching him race for years now, but seeing him perform so well last year in Prem, and then I think having now this esports sort of a pathway into worlds, I think he's just like ding ding ding, this ticks all boxes and I love it. And you can see the passion he has. And I mean, shout out to him. He always tunes into my streams, and I think it was yesterday or the day before, he tunes in and he's like, yeah, da da da, keep going, keep going. And then he's like, oh, I've got to go now for dinner. I'm really sorry. I'm like, oh, it's really nice. He's just a super friendly guy. Great to have on the shows. It was awesome to hear his perspectives of the race too, and also how nervous he gets, like for me, my sort of dissipation of my nerves is to go, okay, it's only my little virtual avatar, let's not take it too seriously. But he's full on serious, and the fact he said the whole weekend he was having to process his poor result, and that's someone who's taking it to the next level.
Definitely. And, I think we're going to see a lot more of what he just said. The opportunities, the access, the cost benefit, I think, of racing esports. You kind of find yourself in this situation where you have heard the feedback that, wow, it's a lot to race in Premier. And there is a small percentage of people that can race Grand Prix. It's Grand Prix, but race the highest level, right? Like that's going to be a small pool that can make it to that level. But that small pool also might not find the best support everywhere else. So it's like there's this really awesome accessibility in your living room to cycling, and you can race community, ZRL, etc. And if you make it to that top level, it is, I mean, even for myself, I'm like, I have a career in cycling. Like I can go and race in real life, and the cost benefit versus like, I just want to go have fun on Zwift. And if I can go to a top level, if it's so attractive at this point. I think like there's this marketability of it for a pro athlete. I think that is definitely becoming very much a buy-in for a lot of people now, and you can hear it coming through from James there.
Absolutely. I think maybe it's about getting other people to catch up with that thinking. I've got a good example of, I said to my husband last night, I've got a serious race on this weekend. Okay. So if you can, do the baby job the night before, he's like, serious race? Are you just getting on Zwift? I was like, yes, I'm getting on Zwift, but it's a serious race. This is Grand Prix. He's like, what does that mean? I'm like, it's serious. Okay. I'm going to be nervous. Just be prepared.
Oh man, that's funny. That's really funny. Look, you're just getting on Zwift. Are you kidding me? No, this is a serious, I love it.
So if we can minimize all people on the internet, don't pull out any cables, make sure the modem is not getting touched by anybody. It's hard not to take it seriously, but yeah, it's a good time. You got to kind of laugh at yourself a little bit as well.
So next up here, we've got the jersey pick. Should we move on to the jersey pick of the week?
Yeah, let's do that. We'll pick the women's Grand Prix teams at the end. I did shockingly in the men's, so we'll cover that soon. But let's look at these jersey picks. And I've got to talk about what we picked last week and a crazy bug we've got going on. But level 51 junk food kit.
So now is this actually? I'm seeing level 52 next to now, is that just the person is on level 52 that shared these? Is that what's going on?
I'm pretty sure this is Eric Schlange because he sent it to me, and I'm like, I am very envious of how many drops he's got. I've got barely 1 million, but. So first things
he
first,
does not have 63,000. What? 63 million? I think I have 35 million right now, and I have ridden. Anyways, we'll leave that. We'll just leave that. So we've got 3 different kits here. It looks like.
Yeah, but I do want to make a call out. So this was called the Level 51 Junk Food Unlock. Now we've got donut, which we just had, and this is avocado. So I just want to say, in what world is avocado a junk food?
Right?
This is the only thing that is really, like, why is this in the junk food kit? Like an espresso? That's not even a food. So I don't know. I think donut, yep, I'm happy with donut being a junk food, but I'm not sure about the espresso and the avocado there. But so this is what I want to talk about. So you know how this is Kate Spicy. Now she was on our screen last week as the fashion in the field with that poxy hot pink kit. Now I wanted to. No one has been able to tell me what that kit is. I've had some people have a guess. It's nowhere. This kit is nowhere. What she did is she messaged me and said she was in this kit. She was in this level 51 unlock kit, the donut kit. Our broadcasting software, Nathan, that we use to broadcast races, turned it into the Poxy kit. And then I know you had a similar thing.
That kit is the default. That's what it is. Because I was like, my socks were those kit. And I was like,
the fire socks, didn't it?
The fire socks, exactly. They got turned into it in the so if you don't update your Zwift, that's how you get it. Is that if it doesn't have the kit that you are trying to put on in your Zwift files, it defaults to that. That's what I'm figuring out. At least that's what it's doing in the extra
it's
Zwift
doing it in
running.
production one. Yeah, it's doing it in the production one, but apparently in your own one, it just looks like this, the donut kit. So I need to know.
But that's because my Zwift auto updates. You can't stop it from auto updating. So I get the kit locally, but if you don't have it locally, you get that other kit, it looks like.
The pink Poxy kit.
And
there's pink Poxy stocks.
Roxy. Isn't it Roxy? I thought it was Roxy.
I don't know if it's Roxy or Poxy. I need someone at Zwift, and Nathan, I know you've got the inside intel there. I need someone at Zwift to find me that default kit and put it in my garage. I want to just wear it normally. I don't know. It is crazy. It's like the craziest ghost in the machine fashion conundrum I have come across. This pink Roxy Poxy kit, which is phenomenal. So the jersey of the week is this junk food kit, but
the avocados and coffee are not junk food. So I don't know who thought espresso and avocados were junk food. I'm down with donuts, but like, come on now. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. Jersey of the week.
All right. Well, what is our garage pick? Let's see here. What is going on here? What? I thought garage pick had to be like a bike or something. It's a visor?
No, garage is anything in your garage.
Anything in your garage. All right, got it.
Yeah. And
I think this thing is freaking awesome. What are you talking about? This thing's amazing. And I see in the show notes it says yuck. That's what is literally in the show notes. All I see is a big yuck. And Gabby put this on the other day, and I was like, that thing looks cool. It was a total part of her setup here. But it looks like you're have a very different opinion on the Zwift visor.
So both my teams, Riot and Saris, know if they wear the visor, they're off the team. Like immediate dismissal. It's this just... Why would you wear this? It looks so stupid. If you're not running on Zwift, why you would wear a visor while you're riding a bike? I hate it. And every time I see someone in a race with the visor on, I just can't handle it. It destroys me. I just don't understand why you would pick this as something you're going to wear in a bike race, a visor. And even, I just think, your avatar is going to fly off. As soon as you go over 20k an hour, that visor is going to catch the wind and fly off. It's not practical. I don't like it.
But if it matches your Adidas shoes, it might be good to go alongside the Adidas shoes. All right. Well, that's the garage pick and the jersey pick for the week. I was going to do fashion in the field with actually the donut. I saw the donut kit and I took a ton of pictures because I was so impressed by it actually, but it looks like it's a double whammy on the donut kit anyways, so no need to do that.
I do want to note I've already got my pick for next week, and it is now my new favorite kit on Zwift. So stay tuned for next week. I've got a new overall favorite kit. So it's a big one. And not many people have access to it at the moment. So yeah. Stay tuned for that one.
I need to know that one. I need to know. We're going to have to figure that. I need to do some riding, I think. That's what needs to happen. I need to do a lot more riding. I was noticing people are starting to when the levels first got unlocked to 50, I was like all over it. But I think I was in the middle of base and they unlocked it in the middle of like winter. Now that they unlocked it in September, this is like when everybody who races in real life is like chilling out. It's time to take my 2 weeks off, race some cyclocross, and like I'm like, really? Oh, everyone's gonna get so far ahead of me. Dang it! Like I'm all like, kind of. Do I need to just go ride my bike a lot? I'm gonna go get tired anyway. Yeah. Well, select. So I want to know from you, Anna, as well as those who are in the community. Let us know in social media or even in chat right now your picks for the women's team next week. We've got for those racing
Tomorrow.
in the women's team. Yeah, tomorrow in the Grand Prix. Ionian, Arrow, Beast Mode presented by Rose, Coalition Alpha, Movistar E-Team, Roca Corba Collective, Saris No Pins, Socks for Watts, Team Swedish Swifters, Cryo RDT, as well as Virginia's Blue Ridge 2024 and Wahoo Lacole are going to be the teams for the Women's Zwift Grand Prix tomorrow. Anna, you got a pick?
Well, I mean, this is hard, right? Because I race for one of the teams. But then I kind of go with last week, the pick I made, the men's team Arrow came dead last. So I almost don't want to pick my own team in case I've got a bad luck kind of vibe going on. But I will. I will pick Sarah Snowpins. Go all the way. Pink train. We got it. We're all feeling pretty confident. I'm excited. So that's the team I'm going for. And Nathan, be careful who you pick with me sitting here.
Not just
with
you.
the other, Gabby,
I have someone sitting right next to me who rides for Beast Mode presented by Rose as well. And now I'm just in trouble. I'm just in trouble no matter who I pick for tomorrow because of this. You know, I'm kind of trying to cheat right now to see who's winning in all of the like different women's divisions right now over on the ZRL. I mean, that's the best way I think to really. Okay, I mean, Aeonian have been showing up in the community and just like dominating. It feels like Cryo right now are winning as well. In the West for the women's division, they've been absolutely dominating. It looks like to me 2024 are posting and running their group ride now, and I can kind of tell they're getting really, really Zwiftified like going into the season here. I think tomorrow is going to be intense. That's what I'll say. And then I also think that there's some riders who haven't been showing their cards at all. They haven't been racing in community at all, and all of a sudden this team's just going to like be like, pow! We're here. Like we haven't been racing much Zwift Racing League or showing up in Zwift at all. And all of a sudden it's gonna be like, where did you come from? So this is a really hard decision actually when it comes to the first race. I am gonna go with should I just go with my gut feeling here? I keep on going with Ionian. I don't know. Like I usually would not, and to be honest, like that's not what I would usually say, but what I've seen them doing in the community, I'm kind of like, holy cow, who are these people all of a sudden? So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to give, my other like secondary like picks would be like, I think Virginia's Blue Ridge will perform really well. I'm not sure that they're going to like, I think obviously they've got Kristen Kolchinsky on the team and her leadership there will, do a really good job. But like you have to have a lot of depth, I think. And I think that across the board, there might be some newer people to Zwift coming from 2024. So I think they'll perform well, but there's going to be a learning curve for some of them. All right, I'm going to stick with it, Ionian. It's hard though, because I want to be like Socks for Watts. And there's so many favorite teams here as well that I've been like commentating on for such a long time. Anyways, Gabby's actually not racing, so I don't have to worry about that pick now because she's not gonna be racing for Beast Mode.
You're right.
So I'm not in trouble now.
You're
I'm not in trouble now. So
well, I'll take that as motivation and be like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Saris is gonna come out all guns blazing, man.
Yeah, I gotta say, well, I'll definitely run the commentary with it tomorrow, so we'll have to make this a conversation. We'll make it a part of the conversation. Where's Saris No Pins? You better show up tomorrow, Saris. You better show up tomorrow. All right. Well, that's going to be it for us to wrap here. That was episode number 11. You can catch all of these anywhere that you can download a podcast and uploads them pretty quickly. So if you want just an audio version, Make sure to go check them out on all of the outlets for podcasts. We also have been live on Twitch, Twitter, actually, Facebook, and YouTube. So make sure to follow, subscribe, like, comment, do all that fun stuff on your favorite platform for live streaming. We'll be back for episode number 12 next week. Obviously, we have a new time. If you're just tuning in, wondering where we've been or why we've been live for this last hour and a half, we are now live at noon Central Time, 5 p.m. GM Team UTC. So make sure to note your calendars for that. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And as always, we'll see you next week. And ride on.